And I think we should be off here in just a second. Yep, looks like almost everyone's starting a sanctuary except for Lunchtime, who finds the gloves in Link's house. So that's a nice first find there.
Yeah, it looks like Lunchtime's taking the classic uncle route, and I think Ack and Chrouya are both going for the Houlihan, and so is Pachu.
Yeah, Houlihan in Keysanity really more feasible or more important, I guess, than in open mode.
Yeah, and Lunchtime gets lucky with an 8-bomb tree pull for the tier 1, so that's really nice. The Houlihan strat's great because sometimes the rupees, with all those keys shuffled into the pool, all those maps, compasses, you can get really starved on rupees early on, so getting 225 out of the way is often a very good play.
We've already got a Tower of Hierarchy down at the Uncle here for a Lunchtime, so might be needed. Nobody likes going to the basement of Hera, but in Keysanity it's a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, and given how early it is, it's very likely that if our runners find themselves in Hera and they have a fire source, they're just going to check it in anyway.
Yeah, if you can check something, you really don't want to leave it behind, especially in Keysanity.
Yeah, so following the Houlihan, Ack and Chrouya are doing the south route to Kakariko, getting some bombs along the way, while Pachu is doing the uncle.
Yeah, looks like Chrouya got slightly more lucky finding one more bomb there. Lunchtime deciding to do escape right away. Finds a big key to pod.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. He got stocked up with bombs, so it's very possible to do, and he was there, so he's just going to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, with the 10 bombs, you can definitely do it. It's trickier than it looks sometimes.
Yeah, there are some strats to make it easier, but it can always be a little tricky. And we find powder at the race game, so that's a great early item to find.
Very nice safety item. Eventually, we'll also open up the Batman. Oh, and there's the blue guard running out of range of that bomb for Lunchtime, unfortunately.
And Pachu taking advantage of that tree pull with the gloves and checking the back of his scape. Unfortunately, not much value there, but he did get an extra heart.
No, better than nothing. Just a $5 in the back of the tavern. Lunchtime now coming up on Zelda Cell.
It does look like Pachu's making their way to the Lumberjack Cave to give us a look at that item.
Yep, and just a piece of heart down in Zelda Cell, so not really super worth it. I mean, a Petals of Darkness big key is nice, but not immediately helpful. Oh man, a Moon Pearl at the bottle vendor. And so far,
that looked to me like it might have been the hook shot on the Lumberjack ledge.
Ooh. That would be very interesting.
So that's really interesting. That could be an early Aga play, or it's possible if Swamp Palace is a pendant, you could have to go into Ganon's Tower to get the Aga Tower keys. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, this could turn out to be extremely trolly for these guys. Depending where they find the Aga keys, and then of course the boots, and all the equipment first of all to even get to Aga.
And what's interesting is not all runners in Keysanity will check the Lumberjack Cave, so that might be an unknown factor for some of our runners for a long time.
Ack finds a bottle down here. Chrouya about to pick up this bottle. That means they can go back and check the sick kid, basically finishing up the whole Kakariko route. It's a little annoying because they came from the south, so they have to go back down there, but it's not too much of a time loss.
And Lunchtime giving us a really good look at that hook shot. So yeah, that's definitely the hook shot. He knows now. Both of our runners on the right know. We'll have to see if our runners on the left check or if they'll just put it off until they have access to it.
Yeah, you see a lot of people, even in open mode, wait to check the lumberjacks until they get the boots, because you can't really do anything about it without the boots anyways.
So we see the book laying there in the woods, but Lunchtime Math not giving us that early pedestal check. We'll have to see if one of our runners does.
Oh yeah. Oh, and a key down here in the Thieves' Hideout. It's for Thieves Town.
You know, that's a great key to find before you find the big key, because then it makes your decision making so much easier.
Looks like Ack is also deciding to skip the pedestal check, as well as Chrouya.
Yep, it does look like he will be. Oh wait, no, he's gonna go to the lumberjack cave.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. All right, so that's good information for him.
It looks like Chrouya is making the same play, so all of our runners will know that the hook shot is there on the lumberjack ledge.
Yeah, and I'm gonna assume that all of our runners are gonna have about the same reaction to that.
Now, a play that Ack likes to do when he gets the early glove is to just make his way up and unlock the save quit point. That might be what he's doing right here. It's definitely not the easiest dark room when you don't have any items, but Ack is very well practiced in this, so he's just making the play.
Ack the no-lamp.
And I cursed him, and he falls into the pit.
It happened. Meanwhile, Chrouya checking the back of his cave as well. We're gonna find out, or we already found out, that it wasn't that great, unfortunately. Pachu about to pick up his powder while Lunchtime is... Oh, okay, he's checking the chicken hut. I thought he was going to Sick Kid.
And Axe made his way through.
Yep, almost at the exit there. Why is an old man lost in a dark cave with a couple of bombs?
Yeah, I'd be pretty suspicious if I were Ack, but you know, it's fine. Just leave him behind and go check out the Spectacle Rock Cave.
Yeah, probably the better choice.
We have a sword for Chrouya at the dam.
Oh, that's a nice find. That's the first south side check. Pachu also making the same play, so he's not too far behind. Yeah, grabbing his extra hard container wasn't sank hard. Even just the fighter sword here in the mini Moldorm cave for Chrouya is just so much less annoying than having to throw bombs at these guys.
Yeah, they can control you even with the sword, but the sword spins that Chrouya used there made it a quick work of it, and we see the big key to Skull Woods.
Huh, that's one of those big keys where you're not unhappy to have it, but other than the big chest, it doesn't really do anything for you.
Yeah, that big key and like the Swamp Palace big key, they're more like fetch quests that happen inside a dungeon. So you like to have them before you actually go there, but they're not really that important to finishing the seed unless they're blocking an item.
Yeah, I really like that. Fetch quests inside dungeons. I think that's a really apt description. Alright, so Chrouya made his way all the way around to Ice Rod Cave. Let's see if we can find anything useful in here.
Well, I'd say
Okay.
that's useful.
That counts as a useful item, I'd say, yes.
Yeah, that's Dark World access for our runners as soon as they make their way there. So this seed has just opened up quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a very early Titan Smiths, and assuming Chrouya is gonna be on his way to pick up the Moon Pearl. Well, the problem for Chrouya is he did not have the $100 for the bottle vendor when he was in Kakariko, so he might be looking all over the place for quite a while.
That's a good point. He actually did hula hand, so maybe he just forgot to talk to the bottle vendor, which hopefully the seed points him in that direction or forces him there very soon, because otherwise we could see some trouble here.
Ack finishing up his back of his cave, gonna find another heart container and nothing of much value.
Yeah, even with that early Dark World access, clearing out these Sphere Zero locations is oftentimes a good idea. So some of our runners, it looks like Pachu is going to Sarhashala. We'll have to see what they end up doing because it does, with the open seed now, the decision making becomes a lot more difficult.
Looks like Skullwoods is our green pendant, and we find the flippers in Sahasrala's closet, so that's another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and when Pachu finally makes their way to the Dark World, he will have East Dark World access, whereas Ack, while he's going there right now, he will not have access to the East Dark World unless he finds the hammer on his way.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Now is probably a good time, or he's pretty happy about the fact that he found that Skullwood big key, which is, I'm gonna assume he's gonna go there first.
Yeah, and interestingly, Ack routed. I think his original plan was to do Mini Moldorm Cave and Ice Rod Cave, and then go back to do the dam and go to Desert with that book. And he got distracted by the Dark World access. He doesn't have that sword yet.
Oh, you're right. Oh, that's a little unfortunate. So both of our left side runners leaving, at least for now, behind a quite important item.
Yeah, he doesn't really have the keys or all the items to complete a dungeon, so as long as he can just walk around and collect items, it shouldn't put him that far behind because he will get forced back to the dam before too long, but it does make it a little trickier to do this item collection.
Some nice bumper strats there from Ack. Getting that little extra speed, saving the frames.
We see Chrouya going for the Dark Sewer chest. This is a chest that can certainly troll if you leave it behind. So a lot of runners will just do the Dark Room while they're here at Hyrule Castle, just so that they can get it, peace of mind from having it out of the way. And Pachu has the boots in Eastern Palace.
Yeah, grabs the boots and also almost enough money to check Zora with those flippers that he just got, so that's another bunch of items that he's almost able to check in the light world here. So far it turns out staying in the light world and checking as much of those Sphere Zero locations that you were talking about seems to have paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly opening up many more locations, checking Eastern Palace first.
Lunchtime grabbing the blue mail from the first chest here in Desert. Finds out there is a small key on the torch, so only Pachu so far at least can check that out.
And we have silvers in Eastern as well. So Hashila in Eastern is certainly a great play.
Yep, and it looks like that's exactly where Lunchtime is headed now. As well as Chrouya.
Yeah, so some runners will just check Sir Hashila and save Eastern Palace for later. We'll have to see what Lunchtime and Chrouya do. They'll be very happy to go inside Eastern at this point, though.
Yeah, these boots have basically been available to them from the very start of the seed. And who doesn't want boots as early as possible?
Yeah, absolutely.
Looks like Ack picked up another mail upgrade here in the Village of Outcasts, so I think we found all the mails.
Yep, and we're starting our Palace of Darkness key collection. We had the big key already, and now we have one of the small keys.
5 more to go. There's that first Aga key.
Yeah, we do have our first agate key, and we did find the boots already, so we are starting to get the pieces of the puzzle for that hook shot, but we still have quite a few to go.
Yeah, we need a lamp. We need at least one more key. And at least in Axe case, he also needs a sword still. Mirror here in the last chest that Ack can check in Thieves Town. That is definitely a very good find for him right now.
Yeah, we'll definitely improve the routing around the Dark World here, minimizing the backtracking that you have to do.
He's also managed to rake up enough money for Zora by now. Doesn't have those flippers yet, but I'm gonna assume Eastern and Sastrella is still on his mind.
And I'm also being told that the other Castle Tower key was actually the Dark Sewer chest.
Ooh, okay. That's interesting. So we're only missing the lamp, basically, for most of our runners.
Yeah, we need either another sword and the cape as well, but we're getting pretty close.
Oh yeah, of course, that barrier. Just a couple bombs here in the bonk rocks and only a couple arrows at the digging game. Knack with a mirror in hand decides to get the frog quest out of the way as fast as possible.
Yeah, this is definitely a great time to do it. He hasn't checked the dam yet, so he might route that in as well. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the flippers, or else it would actually be a really good opportunity to check that first chest in Swamp Palace.
And he's also checking the Bat Cave, just because he can mirror here. Won't have an easy way to get back into the Dark World, unfortunately, from here on out.
Yeah, he's making this check. The hammer can be locked behind this bat cave. I've seen it way too many times, so just making the check while he's here is a really good choice. He just might walk back up to the Dark World portal afterwards.
Our second pod small key. I think he can't get back to his Dark World portal right now because it's behind that hammer peg.
Yeah, he would have to go up to the normal one by Skullwoods.
Mm-hmm. Oh, a Desert Palace small key. That's kind of fortunate for Ack because he hasn't checked Desert yet.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to just see him route that in. Go to Hype Cave and then work his way right to left, ending in Desert Palace.
Mm-hmm. Chrouya also making his way up to Zora. We've seen, I think, 2 small keys at the Waterfall Ferry. Didn't quite catch what it was at the ledge. I think it was like arrows, maybe. Kind of looked like it. Oh, and there was also a cane by Chrouya. I kind of missed that.
Yeah, I guess the hobo had it. So another great find. Just staying in the light world is really paying off for Chrouya.
Mm-hmm. Finding more and more stuff. Oh, it's an ice rod. Okay. Lunchtime grabbing his mirror. Looks like Ack might be bringing back the lunchbox here and then maybe go straight to Desert, which means he'll be missing out on that sword for a little while longer still.
Well, he can mirror in front of the dam and check it when he's there. We'll have to see what he chooses to do.
Yeah, true. Stumpy with a big 20.
So it does look like Ack is going to talk to the bomb shop merchant. You can find out what crystals 5 and 6 are. It's a nice early check to get that info.
Yeah, especially in Keysanity where you can't rely on the music playing in the dungeon, so unless you find the maps, you really don't know if a dungeon is a crystal or a pendant.
Yeah, we find out that Swamp Palace and Misery Mire are crystals 5 and 6, which means that hook shot will be coming into play before too long.
Yeah, and it also tells us that the flute will absolutely be required to seed.
And speaking of Swamp Palace, Chrouya just picks up the Swamp Palace small key from the library.
Ah, that's a very important small key to find. Without that small key, you can't even really get into Swamp Palace. Ack picking up a Tower of Hera big key. We've also found a small key earlier, though it seems that Ack doesn't have it yet, so it must have been in the mini Moldorm cave or somewhere around there.
I think it might have been the Uncle Tunnel, and I don't think Ack has checked that yet.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Alright, so I think that little downwards movement that Ack had there means that he remembers going to the dam. He might be going back first. Yeah, looks like it. Alright, so Ack is picking up his sword. Oh, Chrouya falls on the bomb jump here in Skull Woods. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and it does look like Ack is making his way towards Desert Palace. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the boots yet. We did see a small key on the torch earlier, but we still won't know what that is.
No, we might have to come back for that, depending on what it is, and just some couch cash on the tablet here. A heart container on the desert ledge, and I'm a little surprised Ack didn't check Agina's cave, but I guess he plans on jumping out of the right exit of desert.
Yeah, since he has the small key, it will be very close for him after his check, so that's probably what he's planning to do.
Alright, now lunchtime, making his way up to the bomb vendor. Also going to be finding out what crystals 5 and 6 are. Well, Chrouya picking up his first mail upgrade.
And Max picking up his second.
Yep, we got a pretty early red mail here, accessible to all these guys, depending on their routing. Ack finds the fire rod, so we've got both rods already. We have no idea if we need Turtle Rock or not.
Yeah, we do know that Skullwoods is a pendant, but he might end up back there to check the items behind the fire rod lock back section.
Yeah, it looks like Ack is jumping out here to check Agina's cave. Alright, Chrouya grabs his mirror. Mirror's right out here, back out of Thieves Town. Ack finds a wonderful bomb upgrade, something we all love.
Yeah, that's also a funny chest to get a mirror in because that's typically a death warp location. So the mirror showed up in that chest. Luckily, Chrouya wasn't setting up a death warp ahead of time. Just can get the mirror out, and be on his way.
Yeah, we saw earlier Ack setting up the death warp, and then he got the mirror, and I was like, crap, what do I do now? So we walked back and did the death warp just to get some health back.
So since Ack unlocked the Death Mountain save and quit point earlier, and he found that Hera big key has a fire source, he's coming up to Hera. He didn't get the small key yet, but he will be able to get 5 items out of Hera and check what's on the ether tablet.
Yeah, and on his way out, he can check the spiral cave and grab whatever's in there, and also get the information on the floating island. It's not a bad play at all. He just he left out some usually checked early locations, I'd say.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he would need to find the hammer up here in order to get to the east side of Death Mountain.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's why you can't get to the spiral cave.
Yeah, we know for sure he's not finding the hookshot up here, so it would need to be the hammer.
All right, not quite the hammer, but a cane of sorts.
Yeah, it's a nice item to have. It has its uses, and it does unlock the Spike Cave as soon as we get the hammer.
Here's our first Turtle Rock small key.
And our runners on the bottom have, because they have the flippers, they might choose to actually make their way to the East Dark World. We'll have to see. It would be a good play. They've picked up a couple keys for Pod, and from their perspective, they're probably running out of options that are in logic.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what else we can grab. So far, Ack is missing out on a couple of vital items, I'd say, but it's just his routing hasn't really paid off in that way.
Yeah, for the good news for him is he will be forced back to those light world locations before too long. After he finishes Hera, I don't think he has much less left behind besides Hyrule Castle or the Eastern Palace area.
That's very true. I mean, we saw Lunchtime bombing himself into the back of escape grave, setting up the Hoolihan room, grabbing enough money to check Hobo and then probably the Zora area. So he's gonna have both of the rods.
And we're seeing the early check of the first two chests in Swamp Palace. Can have a lot of value here, and it can lock the hammer, as we've seen in quite a few races already.
Yeah, you don't really feel great going down there, but sometimes it's really, really worth it.
I didn't catch what was on the island earlier, but Pachu is checking the island item, and it's just a big 20.
Yeah, not too great. Unfortunately, he placed his portal in such a way that he can't really get back to it, so now he's swimming over to Hobo.
So Ack didn't get much except for that pod small key, so that might be an extra small key he has on his first trip to a Palace of Darkness that our other runners don't.
Yeah, turns out Tower of Hera is also a pendant, so not even a crystal for his efforts. Alright, Ack is back in the light world. Let's see where he decides to go now. Looks like he's heading straight back to... Oh, he's going up. Or not? I was gonna say, looks like he's heading straight back to the Dark World, but it looked for a second that maybe he wanted to check the pedestal.
Yeah, I think what he's going to do is do the back part of Skull Woods, put that fire rod to use, and get his green pendant. He knows he saw that on the map. He didn't go to Sarhashala, but he did have the map check. He is going south, though, so maybe he's checking the North Dark World locations first.
Alright, Lunchtime has grabbed his rod, so he now has the fire and the ice rod. Pachu is just about to grab his ice rod and whatever Zora had. I don't think it was anything important.
Yeah, and this play by Ack makes sense. He might think that, okay, the Eastern Palace area is probably where the next progression is, but if he's planning to get the green pendant anyway, getting it before you go there makes a lot of sense.
Just a compass here on the graveyard ledge for Ack. Doesn't even bother picking it up.
So given everything we've seen, I am highly suspicious that Palace of Darkness has our next progression, and I think it's just a matter of time before our runners end up there. However, it could be this chest that is in the back of Skull Woods here. We'll have to see.
Yeah, but I would not be surprised if they were forced into pod sooner rather than later.
Yeah, or it could surprise us and be our friend the Catfish or Pyramid as well. Those are still in play.
Yeah, those are locations that the runners often check late, even though they're available very early.
So lunchtime, trying his Fighter Sword Mothula here is getting a little close here. He has that red mail, but the spikes don't really care about the red mail.
Yeah, and this fight can be so annoying. Ack now also dropping into the Mothula fight. Oh no. Lunchtime taking an unfortunate death here. I'm not sure if any of his two bottles had anything in them that would have been useful to him, but I don't think so.
I think one of them might have been a red goo, but I don't know if he's used it or not.
Well, now that he's out of magic, he's kind of stuck here and probably won't try again. Ack isn't having too much luck either, but gets him down finally.
Yeah, we're finding out that small key was a small key to Misery Mire in Desert. And also finding the Bombos medallion on Mothula.
Alright, so that's our first medallion. Could maybe be a hint towards Ice Palace. We do have the Flippers and the Titansmiths.
Yeah, we do have the Fire Rod too, but oftentimes it seems to be the case that there's like multiple items pointing you to the same direction if there's something good there. So we'll have to see. That might be a play. That might be the infamous Hammer and Ice Palace play here.
I mean, I definitely don't hope for that to happen to these guys. Ooh, Meyer Big Key on the pedestal.
Wow. So that means not only do we have an Aga seed, guys, we have a pedestal seed.
Alright, time to get hype, guys. A pedestal seed, an Aga 1 seed required. We've got everything you could wish for here.
Yeah, settle in. We'll be here for a little bit of time today. All dungeons run.
Yep, no chance of anything else. Now, the fortunate thing for Ack is he's already grabbed 2 of the pendants. And there's the lamp for the green pendant.
And our first runner with the lamp is Ack the No Lamp.
Oh, and he doesn't check Eastern. Oh, that's very unfortunate.
So I think what he might be planning is combining Pod with Eastern, but the only way he can do that is going all the way to the Dark World and swimming over. So unfortunately, it'll just put those boots off a little bit longer, but I think he will be getting there before too long.
Right now, lunchtime, getting his revenge, also grabbing the green pendant and the Bombos medallion here. Ack seems a little confused.
Yeah, I think he was just on autopilot and went in the wrong entrance to the forest there. And lunchtime is also finding out that this is a pedestal seed.
Oh, the hammer at the Quakefish.
So if Ack routes to Pod using the north route, he very well could check Catfish as well, which would be a great check for him.
So, with that hammer at Catfish, I now officially have to dedicate the seed to my good friend Ruble.
Yeah, this seed has it all right now. We have pedestal, we have very required item on Catfish. We have Aga. This has been a seed so far. Green pendant lamp. I mean, what else does this seed have for us?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you can't really ask for much more. Maybe the sword upgrades will throw these guys. Maybe we've got a weird bow situation.
I mean, I think right now we're gonna find the bow and Pod because that's where the bow belongs, right?
I mean, in theory. And as you were saying, Ack making the very fortunate decision here to check the Quakefish.
And Chrouya is giving us our first look into Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, I don't think he's found anything of value so far, but he is still at the very beginning.
Lunchtime is picking up their hammer as well, so that's fortunate for them.
Yeah, 3 out of 4 runners now with a hammer making the decision to go with the Quakefish. I like it. Also, interesting to note is Chrouya making his way through here, finding a mushroom, so that might be useful. Only has the fire rod, which will really only be helpful in this room if he chooses to use it.
Yeah, and since Ack got the hammer, I think it changed his route a little bit, so he can come from the south and be a little bit faster.
Mm-hmm. Oh, looks like Chrouya skipping the dark maze for this room here is now out of Eastern Palette of Potkeys.
Yeah, and Ack will have that one extra one from Tower of Hera, so we'll have to see if we get to see a couple extra items.
Looks like we're getting a hammer yum from Chrouya here. Doesn't really mind not having that one small key if you can pull it off. Oh, caster curse.
Yeah, he's a little bit too high right now. Hopefully he gets it lined up right.
Ack not forgetting to check the hobo on his way over the pond, grabbing his cane of Samaria.
Pachu is taking on Mothula with the Fire Rod and Fighter Sword.
Yeah, really not the fight you want to have with this boss, but sometimes you don't really have a choice.
Yeah, you got a really nice dash in there.
Oh, remembers his red goo, very nice. I was gonna say Ack giving us a pyramid check, but apparently he's finally checking out Uncle first.
Yeah, and with the lamp, Ack is just a cape or a Master Sword away from the hook shot as well. As soon as he checks that Dark Sewer chest.
Yeah, and maybe finally gets into Eastern, which I hope will be his next plan. Yeah, Pachu managing to get Mothula down, was down to a little bit of troublesome health, down his red goo, and finished it off very nicely. And his green pendant will also probably find out that the green pendant was definitely worth it. Unlike the pyramid.
And this will work out well for Ack because he will be getting the Palace of Darkness big key before he makes his way to Palace of Darkness. Meanwhile, Chrouya is up on Death Mountain, getting trolled by dead rocks, as often happens.
Yeah, those guys. So lunchtime on his way to pick up his boots. Or rather, already has them now.
Yeah, so interestingly, I was thinking that Pod would give us our access to East Death Mountain, but it was actually the Quakefish, so we shall see what actually is over there. I think Chrouya will give us our first look out of all of our runners, but probably not until he finishes Tower of Hera.
Yep, looks like he is checking out Tower of Hera. He does have the small key now that he's in here, unlike Ack, who didn't have the small key yet when he was up there earlier, so he might also be seeing another important item or key down here.
Yeah, but he's opting to skip the basement for now. And Pachu's picking up the hammer, so all of our runners got the hammer from Catfish, not being trolled too long.
Yeah, thankfully, it's always kind of sad to see one runner just be trolled by one out-of-the-way location.
Lunchtime also making their way up Death Mountain, while Pachu looks to be on their way to Palace of Darkness and or the Pyramid.
Yep, gonna throw in a quick pyramid check first. Might as well. It's an item that's just laying out in the open. Chrouya now starting up his Trolldorm fight has the hammer in Tau, which will make it a lot less annoying than the fighter sword fight that Ack had to do earlier.
Yeah, bootless fighter sword Moldworm is not a fun fight, but having that hammer makes it a lot easier.
Very nice fight. 3 hits, down goes the Trolldorm. Drops our pod, small key, and our red pendant, so that is the first pendant for Chrouya. I believe Chrouya and Pachu have not checked the pedestal yet, right?
I don't think either one has. Pachu did finish Mothula, but I don't recall a pedestal check, although I might have missed it. Chrouya getting the typical Keysanity troll of getting the key that you need right after you leave the dungeon.
As it happens often. Gonna be giving us a glimpse into that basement chest, though. Looks like Ack is heading back there as well.
So with the hammer, Ack does have access to quite a few items up here. He got that Harris small key. He now has Spike Cave and East Death Mountain. It makes sense. He might be thinking, okay, maybe I'll find the bow up here and I can just one-shot pod. But it is putting him further and further away from those boots, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, those boots in Eastern, they were available so early, but he really had no reason to go and check over there. The closest he's come was checking Sahasrarah's hut, but even then, the flippers immediately led him away.
So the potentially unfortunate thing is that we know that very likely the next progression is somewhere here on Death Mountain, so I really hope that it's something that sends him towards Pod, but it could be, say, the flute, and he could end up in Mire next.
Yeah, though, without either the boots or the hookshot, he can't really get too far into Mire, at least.
That's very true. He might get to the Mire area, but he might need those boots to actually get to Mire. That might be his saving grace to get him to Eastern Palace.
First Spiral Cave check from Chrouya grabs a big key to Ice Palace, so okay. It's another one of those that you like to have, but you don't really necessarily need to get through the dungeon. Oh, unfortunately, looks like Turtle Rock needs Bombo, so Ack is able to open that immediately.
Yeah, we have the cane, Fire Rod, and 1 small key, so that opens up 4 items.
Yeah, he can check a little bit if he chooses to do so.
Now, our runners that went to Palace of Darkness, and I don't know if it's Palace of Darkness or Eastern Palace, but they have 2, so they can get all the way to Mimic Cave.
Pachu just grabbed the flute. Out of pod, it looks like it must have been the vanilla big key chest, I guess, which the other runners skipped. I'm trying to figure out where it was.
Yeah, when you don't have all 6 keys, you have to make choices as to which ones to check first, and I guess the flute is a great prize to get for checking that chest.
Yeah, looks like it was the vanilla big key chest, so unfortunately for Pachu, he might have to miss out on whatever was in the Dark Maze and the big chest. But that flute is, as you said, definitely a worthy consolation prize.
Yeah, and it does look like he's setting up the hammer yump, so maybe he'll get a pretty good haul out of here.
Yeah, very nice. If you can get this, that means 3 more chests for him. There we go. Very nicely done. Lunchtime grabs his red pendant, so that's the second pendant. He is also aware of the fact that we definitely need to pull that pedestal.
Yeah, and lucky for Chrouya, they did finish Hera. They don't know that they needed to yet, but they finished it. They got their first pendant, so that's something required out of the way.
We saw Ack dropping some rage bombs in the lower parts of the Paradox Cave. I think he found a big key or maybe a small key to something that he wasn't too happy about.
He just got his second Turtle Rock small key, though, which is great, so that will let him check Mimic Cave. It doesn't put him behind the other runners.
Yep. Alright, Chrouya is going to show us what's in the first chest here. Usually you bonk to over here to look for a hook shot, but we already know that somewhere else.
And Lunchtime jumped right into Turtle Rock, so we have Ack and Lunchtime in the same dungeon at the same time.
Yeah, same amount of small keys as well. We're getting a spike cave check from Chrouya here. With the boots, shouldn't be a problem. It's got to be a little bit close. Yeah, he's fine. GT small key, not really necessary, I guess. You like to have one.
Yeah, it's not really required unless we have to have a vanilla GT big key, which would be a cherry on top of this seed.
Looks like Lunchtime is done with Turtle Rock while Ack decides to check in further.
And given how much he knows that he has to check in this seed with all the dungeons required, he may even opt to check that vanilla big key location. It has been a very interesting location in this tournament so far, so we'll have to see what he decides to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he finds Half Magic a very nice safety and convenience item to have. Not really progression as much, but it's definitely nice to have. But as you were saying, that vanilla big key location here in Turtle Rock, usually a chest that everyone likes to skip, but in Keysanity, yeah, it can troll you. Pachu grabbing his Cane of Burna out of Hera, decides to head to the basement immediately. Meanwhile, Lunchtime grabs his Ice Color's big key. And Ack is most likely going to be checking the Mimic Cave here. A disappointing big 20.
Yeah, so it's looking more and more like potentially Misery Mire could be the source of our next progression. We're not finding too much outside of that flute, although we would need 2 more pod keys for that to be in logic. So it's a little bit interesting what this seed actually wants our runners to do right now.
Yeah, and considering at this point we're really only a sword upgrade or a cape away from finally getting to our hookshot, which opens up a bunch more stuff for us to check out. So wherever that or one of those two is hiding is where we need to go next.
Yeah, it does seem like Ice Palace is probably the play.
Yeah, with the keys that they have and the big key to check the big chest. Alright, looks like lunchtime heard us, and Ack might have heard us as well. Meanwhile, Chrouya has also found out what's on the pedestal. For Ack's sake, I'm really hoping he finds the bow in here.
Yeah, the Ice Palace big key, he might have decided to go to Pod and Eastern if he didn't have the big key yet, but that just means that this is full clearable. So, yeah, this is a perfectly reasonable play, but again, keeping away from those boots.
Yeah, the way this is going, nothing is pointing him at Eastern, so we'll have to see when he finally grabs his boots and how happy he's going to be about the fact that they were available basically from the start of the seed.
Pachu has a nice hammer Moldorm, so he'll get that red pendant. I also don't think he knows he needs it yet, but he'll be glad he has it when he does.
Absolutely. Chrouya showing us that there's just a bomb upgrade down in the Hammerpack Cave. And Ack having a little trouble with the Pangators here. They can be quite trolly.
And since
sorry,
they have that small key, they can full clear this. Well, they can check the items on top with being in logic, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so as well. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
Yeah, it gets a little tricky.
Yeah, Ice Palace is a little bit of a mystery to me in Keysanity.
But in either case, both runners will be checking all 8 chests.
Yep, both runners also, of course, opting for the Ice Palace bomb jump. Getting it first try. It's a little awkward to be in here without the hook shot. Nothing too awful, but you know, you just like to have it. Looks like lunchtime got knocked off by the fire bar. Unfortunately, had to bomb jump again. Looks like Chrouya is also heading towards Ice Palace, I think.
Yep, it looks like 3 of our runners will be here in Ice Palace at the same time.
We found one more Turtle Rock small key. Which I believe means if we do skip the big key vanilla chest, we could theoretically finish it up, including Trimax as well as the laser grid. There's the big key to desert. That's an important one.
Yep, and that makes desert completable.
Pachu with a very nice bomb jump there. Getting over that gap, saving a little bit of time, not having to walk around. Alright, so we got a Swagnet in Ice Palace, as well as a couple of very nice bomb jumps by the looks of it. And there we have it finally.
Yeah, so there's our Aga Tower access. Unfortunately, Ack can't get the hookshot until he makes his way to Eastern, so that might make his route a little bit different from here on out from our other runners. You might see Lunchtime go directly for that hookshot.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all to see that, because, you know, now with that Master Sword, you know, alright, I can finally finish up Aga Tower. Well, actually, Ack and Chrouya are the only two who have both the Castle Tower keys.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Ack failed the bomb jump back, and because he doesn't have the hook shot, he has to go all the way around in order to have another shot at the big chest.
Oh, yeah, that's super annoying.
And it's just a big 20, so this is a pretty big time loss, and he's not going to be very happy when he sees what's in that chest.
I'm controlled by that anti-fairy. The ice movement without the boots, without the hook shot, without anything really, it's so annoying.
Yeah, and Pachu is making that dip into Turtle Rock that Ack and Lunchtime had made earlier. Not a whole lot in the first part here, although he will likely find the half magic.
Yep, which, you know, as we said earlier, a very nice find, but doesn't really get him anywhere. You know, Lunchtime starting up his Cold Stare fight with a little bit of bombos. Oh, and very nice first hit here, hits all three of them. Those puffs really hurt despite the red mail. They still do, I believe, 2 hearts of damage in red mail.
Oh, and Pachu does have the Turtle Rock Big Key along with the Fire Rod and Ice Rod, so they might just clear out the whole dungeon.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize that. I wonder where he found that. Chum finishes up his Cold Stare fight, gets a Hyrule Castle map.
The only thing I can think of that he did that none of the other runners did was get the Hammer Yum, but I'm not sure.
Ack with a very nice Cold Stare fight as well, with the half magic from Turtle Rock really helping out there.
The only downside for Pachu would be if the Vanilla Big Key Chest in Turtle Rock has something required. That would be the only reason this would not be a good thing for them. Otherwise, this would be a great play and probably save them time compared to any of the other runners that we're seeing here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we still have no idea if it's a crystal or a pendant, but at this point it doesn't really matter because we need everything anyways.
And not surprisingly, Lunchtime can finish off Desert completely, so that's their first check. Ack does not have the boots, so he'll have to leave that small key behind, but it does look like he's making his way to Desert as well.
Did the Lunchtime pick up the big key already? He must have, right?
I believe so.
I mean, unless he's just here for the small key, which might very well be. It's a Misery Mire small key. But, if that was all he did, no, it looks like he's going over to the big chest, so he has the big key. That's the Thieves Town big key, so that's important as well.
Yeah, and it's also something that is going to keep Ack away from those boots.
Oh man, I'm really gonna have to ask him about that after the seed. He is just being kept away from those boots with breadcrumbs that lead him everywhere but to Eastern. And yeah, really, at any time, whenever you feel like it, Ack, go over there and grab him. Looks like Chrouya is giving us our first Aga play here, without the lamp, no less.
Yeah, he hasn't picked up his lamp from Sarhashila, so he does have the keys required. He has the boots. He knows he can get the hook shot. It's not a bad play if he's confident with these dark rooms. Not a lot of runners are confident with them, but with the fire rod, there are some torches you can light along the way. So we'll see how he does.
It's definitely not important, but the Agate Tower dark rooms are probably the least favorite dark rooms of all the runners that I know, at least.
Yeah, the first floor of the dark rooms is not too bad, but the second floor has like giant pits everywhere. It's just a little bit rough.
Alright, so lunchtime starting up his land mode 2 fight as Ag is making his way there himself. Pachu making his way over to the laser bridge. Interesting way to go here. I think you can go this direction and also get wherever you want to go. Yep, you definitely can. Never seen anyone drive their little platform like that.
Yeah, it might actually be faster, but it's not as simple. I'm not sure about the speed. It's probably about the same, really, but it's just a little bit more complicated of inputs.
Yeah, it looks like it might maybe hurt you more because of fire bar or something. I'm not sure. Oh, and there's the cape for Pachu, so that's his Aga access. As soon as he grabs the second key. And Desert was our last pendant. So Ack and as lunchtime as well, who looks to be on his way over there right now, able to grab whatever's on the pedestal right now.
Yeah, so good news for Ack is he can't do Mire. He is locked out of Mire until he goes and does Eastern Palace, regardless of
Yes.
anything else.
Oh, he barely misses the smooch from the priest, doesn't get his heart refill, mirrors out a little too soon. You know, lunchtime, heading right back into Thieves Town now that he's got the big key. And Chrouya made it no problem, now starting his Aga 1 fight. And Pachu apparently ready to finish up Turtle Rock as well, starting his Trinex fight. So, yeah, despite not having the Master Sword with the cape now, Aga open as well, just in a different way.
Yeah, he's making good use of the hammer here. A little bit. That ice head can always dodge your shots for some reason, but he's getting it done.
Yeah, once you let these guys get to moving, it's really annoying. And there we go, guys. Ack is grabbing his Meyer Big Key. Master Big Key. Chrouya finally gets Aga down. Got a bunch of blue balls in there. Not a very fun fight, but manages to do it nonetheless. Pachu trying to hammer down the last phase of Trinex here. Needs to be a little bit careful, but I think he should be good. There we go.
Yep, got through the fight. Fighter's sword, but using that hammer gets it done. And he's our first runner with a crystal. I should know. Ice Palace. Forgot Ice Palace.
So very nicely done here with the Trinex fight. Meanwhile, Lunchtime is going to be grabbing the maiden here in what looks to be a very red dress today.
Yeah, it is always fun when the sprites change the NPC colors a little bit. Especially this one where it just changes the dress color and it actually looks fairly normal otherwise.
Yeah, there definitely are a few funky combinations where she's suddenly a blonde or something, or a redhead.
Or they have like Neon Link or whatever, where she's just all sorts of different fluorescent colors.
Psychedelic maiden. Alright, Lunchtime not having too much trouble with the blind fight here, finishes it up. Grabs a heart container, alright, we'll take it. And another crystal, that is definitely more important.
So Chrouya is making the play on Swamp Palace after picking up his hookshot and having the small key. So this is a good play from him. He'll be able to check every chest but the big chests.
Yep, he can also fully complete it, or at least, you know, kill the boss.
And it looks like Lunchtime's going to be our first runner to give us a look at the hammer pegs.
I think Chrouya might have checked it earlier. I barely remember seeing a bomb upgrade, maybe?
Ah, I must have missed that one. Yeah, you're right.
Oh man, nice. I remembered something.
Oh, that's where Pachu found the Turtle Rock Big Key. It's in the second chest in Swamp Palace. So that allowed him to... he had to double dip Swamp, but it allowed him to not double dip Turtle Rock unless there's something in that vanilla Big Key chest.
Yeah, it's still a possibility, and as you said earlier, it wouldn't be the first time we see it, but let's hope for the sake of our runners there isn't. Pachu showing us that we only get a big 20 for our mushroom today. I think he's the first one to actually turn it in.
Yeah, I believe so. Since he is our only runner with the flute, and the flute makes that a lot easier to check, that makes a lot of sense. And now he looks to be on his way to Mystery Mire. Unfortunately, I do not believe he knows that the Mire Big Key is on the pedestal.
No, I believe he is the only one of our runners who has not checked the pedestal yet. Alright, Ack grabs his next crystal while Chrouya is making his way deeper into Swamp Palace. Looks like it's time for Lunchtime to grab his prize from the pedestal. And I think Pachu is also the first one to check out the checkerboard cave here with only a heart container, but you know, more hearts are always nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mystery Mire is Quake required, so he can't go in there yet, so needs to make a decision on where to go next.
Apparently we also missed the bow pickup from Pachu.
Yeah, apparently in the Mire shed. So the flute in locked behind or the 5 small keys in pod based on the current logic, and the bow in Misery Mire.
Man,
well, the Mire area.
I think everyone but Pachu who has been to pod already, which is... Has Chrouya been in pod already? I think he was, right?
Yeah, every one of our runners except for Ack has been in pod at least once.
Yeah, and everyone skipped that vanilla big key location chest. Which means Pachu is the only one who's able to get that bow right now because that had the flute.
So Ack is electing to do Agate Tower. He has everything he needs to complete it. Unfortunately, he won't be able to get his hook shot yet. He might be thinking, hey, the boots can be in here.
Yeah, and getting it out of the way, I mean, why not? You know, it's something you have to do anyways, and it's not like you need the boots in here.
Yeah, and we did see the Quake pickup in Swamp Palace, so that's a Meyer Medallion just sitting here in Swamp.
Alright, so we need to get back to... We need to get back to pod, or into pod in general for Ack, and grab that flute that all these guys skipped that have been to pod already. And then... No, wait, let me think. What am I saying? This is too complicated for me.
It's too complicated for everybody. You just go with it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to not figure this out anymore.
Chrouya picks up that Eastern Palace big key, so things are falling into place. Unfortunately, he might actually end up triple dipping Eastern Palace at this point because he'll need to make his way back to Palace of Darkness to get the flute before he even finds the bow, and might check that big chest while he's there.
Yeah, hopefully he'll make his way into pod first before doing Eastern. But even then, even if he goes to pod first to pick up his flute, he'll probably dip into Eastern anyways afterwards.
Yeah, this seed is there's just a lot going on in this seed. I don't even know how to describe this.
It's definitely not a very friendly one. Not only Aga 1 required, we have a required pedestal. We have all kinds of crazy stuff locked behind all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, we had the green pendant lamp. We had the vanilla big key chest and pod having the flute leading to the bow. There's a lot. Chrouya does finish off Swamp Palace and getting their second crystal.
Yep, and Pachu finishing off King Helmasaur, grabbing his second crystal.
Yeah, and notably, he has 13 out of 14 items, but he does have one small key left, so he is fine as far as collecting items.
Mm-hmm.
And as we have seen many times in this race so far, Ack and Lunchtime are in the same dungeon at the same time on the same fight. Ack gets through Aga first.
Yeah, they've definitely been keeping it close. I mean, Lunchtime definitely has the advantage of the boots over Ack, and probably will be having that for a little while.
Well, I think Ack is actually getting filtered into Palace of Darkness and Eastern Palace at this point, so hopefully this is what we're seeing right now, and he might do Palace of Darkness first, but the boots are not that far away for the first time in this seed.
If he had the bow, his 4 keys would be enough to check pretty much every chest in here. As it stands now, we'll have to see if he also opts to skip that vanilla big key chest.
So the bow is in the Meyer shed, and the flute was in the Vanilla Big Key chest in Palace of Darkness. And Lunchtime picks up their hook shot, so we might see some divergence here with Lunchtime heading towards Swamp Palace.
Yeah, looks like exactly where he will be going. Yeah, looks like Ack is making the right decisions here, picking up his flute now. There it is, going to be pretty happy about that. Or maybe not too happy because he skipped out on pod for quite a while.
Yeah, most of our runners had the boots at the 15-minute mark, and about probably an hour and a half before they get the flute, but Ack gets the flute first.
I mean, now that he's in pod with the mirror, I'm not going to say that it could lead him away from the boots again, but it could definitely lead him away from the boots again.
Yeah, and luckily he has no way into Meyer without getting the boots first. So we know that he's not going to make that dip. Hopefully he doesn't make any other dips. Obviously, Swamp Palace without the hook shot is not something anybody wants to do. So hopefully he would try Eastern Palace first.
Yeah, I would definitely hope so. I mean, if he really does decide to save and quit out of here, and well, now that Aga's dead, he would just start at the pyramid again. But if he does decide to activate his flute first and check out the Meyer area, at least he would be grabbing the bow before he goes into Eastern. He still needs the big key from somewhere. I forgot where Chrouya picked it up.
It was in the push block chest in Swamp Palace, I believe.
Oh yeah, right, of course. So lunchtime now, as we were saying, making his way into Swamp while Ack is finishing off pod. Pachu on his way to the cold stair fight, maybe? No, he's walking back up, it looks like.
Yeah, I think he's getting a little bit of health refill here. And probably checking that iced tea room chest.
Mm-hmm.
Pachu's been on a little bit of a different route than all of our other runners. His crystal order has been a little bit different, but he's been making really good progress through this seed. The only thing that could trip him up is not knowing that it's a pedestal seed. So we'll have to see when that knowledge comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, so far, he's already grabbed 2 of the pendants without knowing. He's now grabbed his tempered sword, the first of our runners to have it, so he grabbed the sword upgrade somewhere that we missed.
So Ack is taking that shovel he found, going to the dig spot on his way to activate his flute, and no Eastern Palace check yet.
Yeah, Ack, oh man. Went to small keyed again and sour. I'm really gonna have to have a talk with him after this is over.
I have like a personal rule in Keysanity that it's okay to do like an early Dark World check, but don't let those 3-0 locations go too long, because every time I have, there has been something that would have made my life so much easier, and this is a pretty good case in point of that happening.
Yeah, it's definitely a great example. Meanwhile, Chrouya still dealing with all the dark rooms in his way. Doesn't really care too much, but that lamp from Saucerella might be pretty far off for him.
Yeah, I'd imagine he'd check it whenever he decides to go back to Pod and Eastern, but he keeps finding other good progression that leads him elsewhere, so it could be a while.
Gonna be grabbing his big 20 here, Ack that is. Not gonna be happy about that either. Meanwhile, Chrouya picks up his cape and is gonna be finishing off the dungeon, I'm gonna assume.
Yeah, and Lunchtime had a really nice fight there on Argus. That second phase was really good.
Alright, so Ack is going to be grabbing that bow, which will hopefully, finally, lead him to Eastern, even though he does not have the big key. Or maybe it gives him enough of a hint to finally make him go there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he checks the bow lock sections of Pod before he goes to Eastern, but I think that Eastern will be his last option at that point.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes and checks the bow lock locations of Pod, then I don't really blame him, but please, Ack, come on, just do it, man. And Chrouya gets first 2 heads of Trinix down. Needs to be a little bit careful down 2 hearts. That should be fine though. Pachu finishing off his Ice Palace. Having a good fight with Colts there.
Yeah, and Chrouya finishing off Trinex.
Looks like Pachu is heading back to Desert Palace, gonna be grabbing his last pendant, which might just lead him to do a blindfold since he has them all anyways.
So there was one location that Ack hadn't checked yet that I had forgotten. It looks like he's checking Spike Cave.
Oh, please, Ack. At least he gets a fairy. Looks like Lunchtime finds nothing of importance here in the Hookshot Cave. We found a small key to Ice Palace, which obviously we don't really need anymore. And yeah, looks like he wants to finish up Turtle Rock next.
Yeah, and he's our first runner to go through here with all 4 small keys, so he will give us our first look at that vanilla big key chest. It could end up being important, or it could just be some random junk. We'll have to see.
Yeah, at this point, I think we're really only looking for keys anymore, right? We're already in item go mode, I think. At least
Yeah, we are in item go mode, so actually, we might actually have no mode here.
And Ack is going back to Pod.
Yeah, I don't think any of our runners are close to their individual go mode, but we might have no mode.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not really sure what else we could be looking for. We've even had a third sword upgrade, or a third sword somewhere that we missed on Pachu's side.
Yeah, chat pointing out the GT Big Key is still at large, so I did say earlier maybe we'll get the vanilla GT Big Key on top of everything else. Very well could be.
Yeah, I mean, item go mode at least. The key go mode is definitely something else.
Yeah, and lunchtime just finding a Misery Mire small key in the vanilla big key chest in Turtle Rock. So good news for Pachu and Chrouya. They do not have to go back.
Yep, thankfully, as you said, nothing really important there. Ack also hasn't picked up his silvers as the only runner. Were they also? Yeah, they were also in Eastern or
Yes,
somewhere
they
around there,
were.
right? Of course they were. Where else could they have been?
So I think that's it for Ack. I think he has to finally mirror and go into Eastern Palace.
Yes, he's finally doing it. I want to see what he says when he grabs his boots. Alright, Ack. Grab that chest. Oh, look at that. That's a couple boots. I really want to be a fly on Ack's wall right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he can't be that happy. Like I'm sure he's glad he has the boots, but man, he knows I could have had these about an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, and I mean, since he saw what's at the Lumberjacks, at least I believe he also checked, right?
Yeah, he knows that they're there, so I would expect him to get that hook shot fairly soon.
Yeah, so especially after knowing that, he's also aware that this opens up a lot of stuff that he kind of, for kind of left behind, I guess.
So most of Ack's missing items are in Swamp Palace, the Eastern Palace Big Key, the Quake Medallion, and the Turtle Rock Big Key. I do not remember where the Swamp Small Key was.
Oh man, we found it it was on top of the library.
Ah, right. So as long as he checks that library, all he would need to do is go to Swamp Palace after picking up that hook shot. Now he would have to then gamble on the Ganon's Tower Big Key being in Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, which at this point, seems increasingly likely. It's not 100% for sure yet, of course, but
Yeah,
looking
there
more and more.
are 8 item locations in Misery Mire that we have not yet seen, so it very well could be there too. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I mean, with this seed, I don't know.
I think the absolute worst spot for the Ganon's Tower Big Key might not actually be in Ganon's Tower for this seed, but in the vanilla Big Key chest in Misery Mire, because our runners might just opt to skip that anyway because it takes so long to check.
That would be something. I mean, we pretty much checked all other locations, haven't we? I don't think there's any fetch quests or anything left.
None that are available outside of Ganon's Tower that I can think of.
Mm-hmm. Alright, and Ack finally gonna be grabbing his hook shot. Lunchtime finishes up his Trinex fight and grabs his crystal. Really not too much left for him there to do. Everyone, of course, still on the lookout for Quake.
So did Lunchtime miss Quake in Swamp?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. He must have.
He might have skipped left side Swamp, and I think the Quake was on the left side.
Well, thankfully for Ack, he remembered that there was a small key here in the library, so he grabbed a small key to Swamp, which will probably send him right there.
Yeah, Lunchtime is definitely missing the Quake medallion, so that might spell trouble for him here.
Yeah, if he doesn't go back there soon, he'll be in pretty big trouble. He's also still missing the flute, which, you know, when does he go back to Pod to check that?
Yeah, that location in the current logic is locked behind 5 small keys, which he has right now. So maybe he'll make the play soon, but he has to be running out of locations. So whether he goes back to Swamp Palace or goes to Palace of Darkness, he'll have to make one of these small, smallly available, a small number of available items next in his options. It looks like he's going towards Eastern.
Yeah, I guess he wants to take the Dark World Warp here and go back to Pod, which will give him the flute, which is definitely what he needs right now.
Yeah, so we'll just have to see. As long as he checks that vanilla big key spot, he'll be good. And Pachu, I think he did a blind pull of the pedestal, finding that big key.
Yeah, that's super fortunate for him. I mean, I don't think he was the only one of our runners who never checked the pedestal beforehand, despite finding that book so early and like right next to it as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Chrouya checked the pedestal. He is doing Lamble fight right now. He might just do a pull as well. I just don't recall if he checked.
Chrouya finally grabbing his last pendant, so he's going to be heading right for that Meyer key, I'm going to assume. Also needs to check back into Pod to grab that flute, otherwise he really won't be getting anywhere.
And apparently we were mistaken. This is Lunchtime's first trip into Pod, so he can get a lot of items while he's here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was sure he was in here already. Okay.
Yeah, basically since the 15-minute mark, our runners have been all over the place, so it's been a little tricky to keep track of them all.
Yeah, and with a seed this crazy, it's just it's quite insane what these guys are having to go through right now.
Okay, so currently, Ack is electing to skip the left side of Swamp.
Well, I hope he goes back.
Right. He just got the Turtle Rock Big Key, and there are still quite a few items left in Turtle Rock. More than the 2 that are on the left side of Swamp. He might make that call.
I'm really hoping that the boots in Eastern taught him a lesson, but we'll see. Maybe he also thinks he's so far behind now that he has to make this gamble.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Chrouya, meanwhile, picked up his Misery Mire Big Key, so we have 4 ped pulls, we have 4 agate clears.
Alright, now Ack is making his way to the Argus boss fight while Pachu is going to be heading up Aghanim's tower.
Ack also needs one more pod small key. I think he's going to run across it along his normal route, but it is something he still needs for go mode. And Lunchtime pulling off the Hammer Yump, so they will have enough keys to complete it. They'll have one left over.
I really do hope that Ack goes back in here right now. Please, Ack. Please, Ack. Oh my god. Hasn't he seen that Meyer is Quake? I guess he does care. Well, he'll find out now, I guess.
So he was here to pick up the bow. I'm not sure. Oh, he remembers a small key that's on the Desert Torch. He's picking that up.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I just said he does need that fifth pod small key. So he might be looking for that here so that he can route that in with Eastern, but he's going to be disappointed when it's a Myers small key.
Yep.
And Furame pointing out in the chat, there is not a single runner yet who has both pieces they need to get into Misery Mire. 3 of our runners have the flute, and 1 of them has the Quake Medallion.
Oh man, this is a crazy one. So Pachu now at the 1 hour and 47 mark, finishing his Aga 1 fight. Warps to the Dark World, probably gonna mirror back immediately and grab that hook shot.
So it's pretty funny. Ack was our last runner to enter Eastern Palace, and he's going to be our first runner to finish it.
Yeah, kind of weird how that works out sometimes, right? These guys have definitely shown a lot of route divergence, even though we've seen a couple of times where 2 of the runners were in the same dungeon at the same time. Everyone really kind of made their own route for the seed.
Yeah, and since the seed made you do just about everything, it kind of worked out that way. There were definitely several times where it branched out, and all the paths were pretty valid. So it's not surprising that our runners made different choices.
Yeah, and there really weren't many, if any, right or wrong decisions to be made here. Because, as you say, you pretty much had to be everywhere, and every place seemed to have like a small, tiny item that opened up another couple of places.
Yep, you can certainly see why the runners chose the routes they did. It's just finally we're getting close to that convergence point.
Yeah, slowly but surely. There's not too many crystals missing. But as we were pointing out earlier, we kind of know what all these guys need to do and where they need to go, at least item-wise. But none of our runners really have the complete picture yet. Alright, so Axe Eastern Plane not really paying off except for that crystal, of course. Looks like he's heading back into Turtle Rock.
Yeah, this is the obvious play given his current situation. Unfortunately, he's not going to find that Quake Medallion, so he will be forced back into the left side of Swamp before too long, but so will Lunchtime. So it's going to be interesting to see who ends up getting that Quake Medallion first.
Yeah, it looks like for our top race, that Quake Medallion definitely gonna be the difference maker here. Looks like Lunchtime now back with a vengeance. And another small key, I believe.
Yeah, Lunchtime will be able to finish off Palace of Darkness here, and also mirror and finish off Eastern. So it'll just be the search for the Quake Medallion, and of course that Ganon's Tower big key.
Yeah, which at this point, I mean, we still don't know what's in Misery Mire, but the chances of it actually being in GT aren't too low.
No, it'll be interesting to see. Our runners could opt to do different strats with Mire routing. They could check, the most convenient chests and leave the other ones behind and check the basement instead, or they could do a full clear because they've already cleared almost everything else in this seed.
Yeah, I mean, these guys had to really go all over the place. Chrouya picking up his flute finally, and that's the missing piece of the puzzle for him. He's gonna opt to finish up the rest of the dungeon as far as he can anyways. Without that bow, he can't really get through the bow lock section quite yet. Okay, now Lunchtime making the fight here, taking the fight to King Helmasaur, I should say. Not really going to be a problem. Tempered Sword, Silver Arrows, the Hammering Hand.
And Pachu is making his way into the left side of Swamp.
Alright, that's exactly where he needs to go.
Yeah, once he reaches the push block chest, he'll be the Ganon's Tower big key away from go mode.
Yep, he's gonna have to grab that Eastern Palace big key near the end there, but I highly doubt he'll skip that chest, so that shouldn't be a problem. Now we have Chrouya back here in Eastern Palace. I'm a little bit surprised. I guess he wants to check the big chest. Sadly gonna end up having to triple dip into here.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. He is making a triple dip. Not required, but at least it will force him to get to that flute lock location in the Mire shed to get his bow. Ack and Lunchtime are coming up on their 6 crystals at about the same time.
Yeah, it's really, for these guys, it's really going to be the race of who finds that Quake Medallion first, or rather, who goes back to Swamp first.
Yeah, and for both of them, I can't think of that much they have left outside of the return to Swamp. So I think we might get some close to back in sync here.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very, very close. I think Lunchtime might be finishing up his boss fight a little bit before Ack, but we'll see. Very nice cane dash there from Ag. Meanwhile, Chrouya activating his swag duck as the last of our forerunners. Ag showing us the dens of his people on the little platform before the Trinix fight. Very clean Trinix fight so far, and Lunchtime also making very short work of the Armos Knights with the silver arrows.
And importantly, Ack is getting that pod small key.
Yep. And it looks like... Oh, Lunchtime accidentally flew it to the wrong location. Looks like Lunchtime heading right back to Swamp. As you were saying earlier, they really don't have that many locations left other than this.
Yep, so Ack is going to check Hookshot Cave. I expect him to go finish Palace of Darkness, but then he'll be working his way back to Swamp. So really it depends on where that Ganon's Tower big key is and what our runners decide to check looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, after Lunchtime grabs the Quake Medallion from here, which at this point he's only maybe a minute or two away at the most. He's gonna dip right into Mire, and then we'll find out if it not only holds our last crystal, but also the GT big key. And we have Chrouya in Misery Mire already, so he might be showing us if we can find the Ganon's Tower big key in here or not first.
Yeah, it does look like from his route he's planning to full clear this, even though he has everything he needs to get to Ganon's Tower at this point.
Yeah, he certainly does, but, you know, you don't want to be bitten by one of these locations. They can save you a little bit of time if you don't check them, but they can cost you a lot more if they have something that you need. Meanwhile, Ack here still having to finish a pod, so he's, yeah, he's a dungeon behind. No, well, not really a full dungeon, I guess. I don't know what we would call this. Half a dungeon?
Yeah, he just has to go kill King Helmasaur, so just a couple minutes.
He's not too far behind, and we can only hope that he also decides to immediately go check Swamp left side, which could make this quite interesting of a race still. There's the big key to Swamp Palace. That's another location we can't forget about.
Yeah, and wouldn't it be something if that's where the Ganon's Tower big key was? Because while I expect our runners to full clear Mire here, although they could opt not to, I do not expect them to go and check the Swamp Palace big chest before going to Ganon's Tower.
That certainly would be something. I mean, there's not a whole lot of places the seed could go to get worse than it has been, but that will be one.
Lunchtime picking up his Quake Medallion and checking over here for that Ganon's Tower big key in case it's hiding, but not there, just the blue ruby.
And so far, Not having any luck here with the Gannon Big Key and Meyer, so we'll have to see.
And we do find our 6 Palace of Darkness small key here in Misery Mire.
Pachu also making his way through Misery Mire. It's pretty close with these bottom two guys. Pachu is a pot clear ahead, I would say, but it's not too much of a difference going on there.
Yeah, both races are pretty close. Lunchtime has a little bit of a lead over Ack. Ack still needs to go to the left side of Swamp. Chrouya and Pachu are also pretty close. Pachu a little bit ahead, but not by much.
Yeah, and thankfully Ack also deciding to go back into Swamp. As you said earlier, the locations that they still have left probably make this the most reasonable decision, if there even is a decision to be made. And only a green rupee from Vitria, so Misery Mire holding really nothing for us. Except for their crystal.
That Swamp Palace big key is in here, so hopefully that's not anything, but yeah, we'll have to see.
Oh, and is Chrouya going? Or is he maybe checking the Pyramid Fairy?
Ah, that's another location that has just slipped my mind. But yeah, Swamp Palace and Misery Mire were those crystals that we found out about an hour and a half ago. So yeah, this is a good check. Probably skipping Swamp Palace, but getting these 2 chests out of the way.
Yeah, I like this. That's a location we haven't been talking about at all yet, and who knows? I mean, at this point, really, the seed has been trolling them so hard. I mean, I don't know if I would really call it trolling, because it was pretty apparent what you needed to do from the start. It required just about everything. Alright, what you got? And there it is.
Wow, that's a crazy location, and Chrouya making the call. I don't know if our other runners will check that before going to Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, very true. I mean, it's a location that's easy to forget, and who knows? I mean, most of these guys got the hint from the bomb guy earlier in the game, but with how the seed has been sending them around, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even really remember which crystals were 5 and 6.
Yeah, the outcome of both of these races hinge on whether the other on the top race, whether either runner checks it, and bottom race, Pachu needs to check that before going to Ganon's Tower, or else he's going to quickly find himself behind.
Yeah, and with him going to Eastern Palace, I kind of have a feeling that he's planning on just heading right up to Ganon's Tower after grabbing his last crystal here. Meanwhile, Lunchtime is making his way to Vitrius as Ack is opening up Misery Mire finally for his last crystal as well.
And since Chrouya is in full go mode now, he's not going to get that tempered sword that's on the bowlock side of pod, so he will be on Master Sword, at least unless he finds one in Ganon's tower, possibly.
Oh yeah, this could also make a big difference. I mean, depending on what Pachu decides after he's done with Eastern here, we'll have to see. Having the spin on Ganon, I mean, I think Chrouya is good enough, definitely, to pull it off easily, especially with silvers. But it does cost quite a bit of time, and the risk of getting knocked off is a lot bigger as well.
Yeah, everything's just slightly more harder on the Ganon's Tower climb as well with Master Sword. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it is a small difference.
Okay, so it's looking like Agg is also planning on full clearing Meyer here. I don't really blame him. He's already had a little bit of trouble with leaving behind things twice here. Once with the boots in Eastern and once with the Quake Medallion and Swamp. We'll have to see. He could be making up some time, but of course he's not aware of that. Still looking for the GT Bicky.
Yeah, and with Ganon's Tower's basement just full of items, it very well could be that our other three runners go there first. So we'll have to see if anybody else elects to check the pyramid. They'll be, or the pyramid ferry. They'll be rewarded for doing so.
So all of our other three runners here, with Agg very close behind, have grabbed their last crystal. It looks like Pachu is indeed going to check the Pyramid Ferry as well as lunchtime, so it looks like these guys are definitely on the right track.
Yeah, and you know, it's a little bit surprising, but it's not a bad play at all. When you've checked everything outside of like 3 locations before Ganon's Tower, you almost think, well, let's just check these last couple. Lunchtime actually is headed into a swamp first, so depending on what Act does, this could change the outcome.
Oh wow, he wants to check the Swamp Big Chest. This could be huge for Act. He is now on his way to the boss finally, so if he decides to go for the Pyramid Ferry first, that could be a huge time difference, or rather a big amount of time that he makes up. Pachu taking Agg a shortcut while Chrouya is making his way up to his last boss fight for the crystals.
And Pachu not even bothering with the other chest. He's in go mode. He has tempered. He has silvers, red mail. Let's get to Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, he's just done with this. He had enough of everything. Alright, Ack making short work of Vitreous here. 2 silver arrows to the big eye. Gonna be grabbing his Constellation Rupee. And his last crystal, and let's see where he goes now.
Yeah, given that lunchtime is making this check, it's almost guaranteed he's going to check Pyramid Ferry as well. So that's probably where he's going next. What Act does is going to pretty much decide whether this is a close race or a not so close race.
Alright, he's mirroring. If he flutes to 1, it's sadly gonna be game over. If he flutes to 4... Uh-oh. Alright, Pachu gonna be making his way over to the Turtle Rock Warp. He's gonna be the first one to enter Ganon's Tower, unless he gets trolled some more by these dead rocks.
So right now it's safe to say that Pachu, with the Tempered Sword and the lead going to Ganon's Tower, has a little bit of a lead in the bottom race. And unfortunately, with Ack going straight to Ganon's Tower, it's safe to say that Lunchtime, who is about to pick up his Ganon's Tower big key, has a bit of a lead in the top race.
Yeah, unfortunately for Ack, this will probably turn into quite the sizable lead for Lunchtime by the end of it. Alright, Pachu now taking up the stairs to Ganon's Tower's 3rd floor. Hits the switch, gonna be making his way through the gauntlet. Both Lunchtime and Chrouya not too far behind. Ack also opening Ganon's Tower, sadly, without the big key in hand, and yeah, he's gonna be clearing out a lot of chests that don't have what he wants. But on the upside, we might finally find our first shield this seed.
Very true. I would expect Ack to find Mirror Shield, actually, since he's checking the entire basement.
Yeah, there's the Battle Sword as a start. And we're going with the right side first. Yeah, that kind of has become very popular. Checking those 4 chests, grab the small key, and then rearing back to the entrance.
Well, we do find our validation arrow in the compass room in GT.
Yeah, and another bottle. Not really what we want. Let's see what we find on the torch. A heart container. Nobody's gonna grab that. Lunchtime also making his way up through the gauntlet. We see Pachu entering his Landmo 2 fight. Sadly misses the first silver arrow there. Pachu refilling his reserves here. Not a bad idea. You don't want to accidentally die in the climb and have to redo everything. Acktheboker grabbing a couple more hearts.
Yeah, he's finding a lot of things here, but not anything that he is looking for.
You think we'll even get to see the tile room from him at the end?
At this point, I think so. The only exception would be maybe if somebody finishes before he would check it, but I don't think that timing's going to work out.
Yeah, these guys are pretty far along already, but that's probably going to be cutting it a little close. Seeing Pachu about to be heading into his Trolldorm 2 fight, while Chrouya is making his way through the lamp room, or the torch room rather. This is gonna come down to execution, I would say.
Yeah, the bottom race is extremely close. The Master Sword, Tempered Sword difference is probably going to be huge in the end.
Yeah, just the difference between being able to slash or having to spin Ganon is a lot bigger than you would expect.
And we see that nice 0 out of 27 compass for Ganon's Tower. No checks, just going straight on to Aggtheboker.
Yep, don't need to stop for anything. Ack, meanwhile, coming up on the Ice Armos fight. Oh no, and Chrouya getting trolled by Trolldorm too.
Yeah, even Trolldorm is a lot harder with Master Sword than it is with Tempered, so all these little pieces just come together here. Meanwhile, Pachu gets through Aggtheboker very quickly.
Yeah, very, very nice fight. Gets a little piggy ghost and a weird little bat. And then the only instance of a Dark World swag duck you'll ever see. Alright, Pachu dropping into Ganon's little hole there at 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 6 seconds. As you said, with the Tempered Sword in hand, these phases should be pretty quick and not a big problem at all. And we see Ack in the tunnel room.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He might get Mirror Shield.
He is thankfully giving me the opportunity to explain that if you are using Cape and you grab a wall and hold on to it, it does not use up your magic, as you can see here. And Ack finally realizes the big key to GT is not in GT, so off we go. So Chrouya a little bit more than a minute behind Pachu. Pachu almost in phase 4, now starting phase 4. Ooh, needs to be careful there. But gets a nice, almost a triple, nice double there. 2 more hits. Oh, misses one. Now Chrouya starting his Ganon fight as well. And it looks like Pachu got it now, barring any horrible mishaps at the end here. He should be the winner of our bottom race.
Yeah, that's a GG for Pachu, finishing in first place with an official SRL time of 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 55 seconds. Really nice
GG,
run from beginning to end.
That was incredibly well played. Chrouya not too far behind, but as you were pointing out earlier, going to be having a little bit of a harder time with Ganon and that Master Sword.
Ack, meanwhile, is about to get
Yes.
his Ganon's Tower big key.
He is not going to be heavy. There we go. There it is. Might as well pick up the other chest to make sure you actually 100% at the seed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what he was thinking at that point. Meanwhile, Chrouya is down to 2 hearts, so he has to be very careful here, pulling out the cape.
Good decision. I'm not sure if he bought any potions. I remember him turning in the mushroom, so I assume he did, but probably doesn't want to waste any more time than he has to. Alright, now lunchtime. Getting the last couple silver arrows into Ganon here. Didn't get the torch glitch, doesn't really need it with half magic or anything, as we see. Gets him down, no problemo.
Yeah, really nice fight.
And GG to lunchtime as well, finishing up as the winner of his race with an official SRL time of 2 hours, 19 minutes, and 39 seconds.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Chrouya taking a death on, I believe, the last phase.
Oh yeah, those Ganon deaths are really annoying. I mean, at this point he's well aware that he's lost his race, so it's not the end of the world, but it's still just such a bummer.
Yeah, Master Sword Ganon is a difficult fight, and if you find out you lose your race, sometimes it's really hard to focus on what you need to do.
Alright, we've reached out to all the runners that have finished so far for a post-game interview. We'll have to see if they are willing and able to come in. As soon as we hear from them, we'll tell you guys. And Chrouya, on his revenge fight with Ganon, needs to be a little careful with his health here. I mean, red mail helps a lot, but, you know, you don't want to be too overzealous. Ack, meanwhile, making his way back up Ganon's tower now with a big key in hand, able to actually get into the gauntlet. Alright, looks like lunchtime sadly does not have a microphone, so he won't be joining us, but we do have Pachu, so let me get him in here real quick. Hey Pachu, GG! Congrats on your win.
Thanks. Oh, I was sweating there at the end for a bit looking for that GT big key.
Yeah, I can imagine, and that was quite the seed that they gave you today, too. I mean, so many things. Aga 1 required, a pedestal seed, the lamp for the green pendant, just everything was out to get you guys.
Yeah, those were all things. As soon as I saw Hookshot at Lumberjack, I'm like, oh, we're going places. I don't like where those places are, but we're going there.
Yeah, and it stayed true to itself until the very end where, you know, you had to go back into Swamp Palace to pick up that Quake Medallion, and then you had to go and check the Pyramid Fairy for that big key.
Mm-hmm. When I got the Swamp Palace big key, I'm like, oh no, please don't be there. I don't want to have to go back a third time.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That was not very fun. And you guys, you and Ack in your race, you were actually. Oh wait, I'm sorry. You and Chrouya, you guys were pretty close, even though your routing was quite different.
Yeah, I was basically just winging it on the fly. Something would happen. I'm like, okay, so much for that plan. Let's go do something else. But it worked, I guess.
Yeah, it certainly did. I mean, pulled in the win.
Yeah, you were by far the first runner into Turtle Rock for the full clear. You made that dip into Swamp for the Turtle Rock Big Key and made that first single dip trip up to Turtle Rock. So that was, you had like a different route than any of the other runners, and it really worked out for you.
It's got to work once, I guess. Yeah, when I had all that stuff for T-Rock, it's like, well, I can either check the Big Key Vanilla chest or just finish it out. It's like, I know I've seen important stuff in that chest before, fire on multiple times, but it's like, I gotta risk it. I have to. And I'm really glad it paid out.
Yeah, and with this, I also want to welcome Chrouya here. GG, Chrouya, how are you feeling?
I gambled the wrong key door in pod.
Yeah, sadly. That was pretty late for you.
Yeah, I figured when I got the flute that late, I was like, yeah, I'm totally behind because the bow, I made unnecessary dives, or like, yeah, I guess dips into pod and Eastern because of that.
Yeah, you guys were actually pretty close, but I mean, obviously the flute held you back a little bit, and also the way you routed out the seed made you miss out on Tempered Sword for the Ganon fight, which was, I believe, in Swamp somewhere?
It was in the bow lock section of Palace of Darkness, so
yes.
The bow go mode forced you to miss the Tempered Sword.
Yeah, I was like, should I risk it, or I felt like I was fast enough to do it like Master Sword all the way. I didn't want to like think that it would have been too much of a time sink to go to those two chests. Oh well.
Yeah, going back there, I mean, it's definitely understandable that you didn't want to waste even more time going back into pod and checking those chests and everything.
I was already happy I found the big key of Ganon's Tower before I just went up Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, that was very well done. And that was a good decision. I think you were the first of our runners to actually check the Pyramid Fairy, right? Am I remembering that right?
I believe that's true. Yeah.
That's awkward. Because I felt like, I mean, at that point, that was like the only chests I had left aside from the victory rewards from the bow dungeons and the big key chest in Total Rock. Those are the only chests I had left.
No, you had one more chest left, which was the one chest that your opponent Pachu checked, the big chest in Small Palace.
Oh yeah, I didn't have the big key.
I think that was actually lunchtime in
Yes.
his race.
It was lunchtime.
Oh,
I
really?
did check it.
Oh man, why am I mixing up everything? This seat was crazy. I'm not to blame, obviously. But yeah, in any case, I mean, I think it was definitely a very great race. It was close all the way through. Unfortunately, to give you a little bit of information on the other race between Ack and Lunchtime, Ack decided to head straight into Ganon's Tower without checking the Pyramid Fairy first.
Yeah.
And,
I figured that's another really good play. I mean, and
Yeah.
it might save me some time instead of checking all the other chests that are around, because that's like 22 chests you can just check for free.
Yeah, plus he had a little bit of trouble throughout the whole seed because he really shied away from that Eastern Palace dip. He didn't get his boots until, I don't know, like an hour and 30 or an hour and 40 in.
Oh well. I mean, I probably wouldn't have won even if I had the tempered from at the end.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's hard to say, really. You guys were pretty close, I would say. But it was definitely well played, and I mean, really, this seed, I was saying to Pachu earlier, this seed really asked everything of you. You had a required Egg 1 for that Lumberjack hook shot. You needed the Mizrumire big key for from the pedestal. The green pendant led you to the lamp from Sahasrara. And then just to top it all off, it stayed true to itself until the very end. Everything was locked behind the flute that was in the big key vanilla location from Pod, and you know, it's just, this seed was totally crazy.
Dying in ice really hurt me. I didn't get the bomb jump this time around.
Yeah, that
I
was
was constantly 1 pixel off. Oh well.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. You were there with the fighter sword as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fighter sword makes it a little weird if you use.
I mean, at that point, I was just like, well, no, I did grab the Master Sword before dying, because after that I went Aga. Just I needed to go Aga. I felt like I just needed to go Aga. So the moment I got the Master Sword from Ice Palace, I was like, all right, that's nice, but I kind of wanted to finish that dungeon earlier instead of dipping back into it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Corey, do you have any other questions?
No, I just want to say a great race from all the runners. Thanks for putting on the show for us.
Thanks for commentating, and to trackers, thank you. Thanks to everybody for putting this on.
Yeah, I'm glad we made it a nice race. Exciting race.
Yeah, GG Chrouya. That was fun.
Yeah, definitely thanks to you guys as well, and also welcome to Ack here. GG, man. How do you feel?
I feel like I got 100% 2 out of 5 out of the Keysanity tournament so far. I'm doing really well. I got to skip one chest though. I feel pretty good about that. I didn't do the that one chest in Mire, so I thought that would have been enough to save me time.
I mean,
I guess the other extra 30 I did in GT didn't help though.
Yeah,
Give
they
you a
were
useless big key.
I personally was very glad to see that you decided to pick up that bomb, that arrow upgrade from the Big Fairy after grabbing the Ganon's Tower Big Key. Just, to make sure that there was absolutely nothing you could have possibly skipped.
I wanted to make it. I was hoping it was going to be the Swamp Big Key, because maybe I would have considered going back and making a fourth trip in the swamp or something.
That is actually what was at the vanilla Big Key spot in Mire.
Yep.
Oh my god. Thank god I didn't see that.
Oh man, that would have been so bad. So, what's your problem with the Eastern Palace, man?
I don't know. It's not really like I have a problem with any specific location. I just have a problem going to locations that are where I need to go. That's typically how it works. I mean, the boots just unlocked literally half the seed, but I mean, it was let's go dive an incompletable dungeon, or let's do all these things you actually can complete. So I did the ones I could complete, and it cost me.
Yeah, we were constantly pointing out that you kept finding breadcrumbs that led you somewhere that led to somewhere else, which were, good items and everything, but everything that you found led you away from Eastern.
Yeah, I mean, I even got just enough in pod for me not to check Eastern because I was going in right after, but I don't know, it probably wouldn't have mattered because I would have routed that the same.
I mean, you and Lunchtime kind of went into GT at the same time, with the difference being that you
had the big key.
you decided not to check the Pyramid Fairy first. And even before that, you came, let me think. I think you came out of Mire grabbing your last crystal as he was finishing up Turtle Rock, I think was his last crystal. And yeah, it was really close. And if you both, it wasn't Turtle Rock. I don't remember what his last crystal was. The point is, he went to Swamp Palace Big Chest while you were finishing up your last dungeon. And if you had immediately gone from Mire to the Pyramid Fairy, you guys would have been pretty much neck and neck. But obviously, all those chests in Ganon's Tower that you checked, put him ahead quite a bit.
Yeah. That makes sense. And even just checking those two chests in Eastern would have made all the difference. I could have, probably still wouldn't have been enough, but even then I could have at least went directly from Turtle Rock to Ganon's Tower at that point, because you didn't need anything from the back half of Turtle Rock. But, Swamp gave me 2 early big keys, so I figured that was enough. And I was like, you know what? I can skip a chest. It can be done. I'll show you guys. Just kidding. I'll never do it again. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I think, you shouldn't really blame yourself too much, because the seed, as I was saying to the other runners who are here, I mean, it started out terrible already. You had the hook shot at the Lumberjacks, and then you had a required pedestal, and then you had the lamp behind the green pendant, and the flute in that weird pod location where the vanilla big key is normally, that locked out the bow, and it just sent you back and forth and everywhere, and, it was just crazy times.
The opening was really fun, but yeah, the latter half was really awful. I was just like, man, I'm doing this in such a terrible order.
Well, it was still very entertaining to watch, and all 4 of you guys put on a great race. I think we can all agree on that. Well, maybe you don't agree, Ack, but I still think it was a great race.
I'm about ready to announce my retirement for Keysanity, to be honest, after that one.
Oh, man. Can't do that to us.
And this is pretty much like the max you can get.
Yeah, that was so much running around the world.
Really, oh, there we go. 194 out of 216.
GG though, Lunchtime. If he's in here. I haven't checked, actually.
No, he isn't. He said he doesn't have a microphone, so he didn't come in for an interview, sadly.
Oh. Well, if you can hear me, GG. Yeah, thanks for the commentary and restream, guys.
Yeah, and again, thank you guys for putting on a great race and letting us watch you guys manage to get through this horrible seed. Again, GG to y'all, and good luck on the rest of your tournament, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, GG. And well, we'll see if I can get some wins after this. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, you know, never count yourself out. All of you guys showed us that you were pretty good. There were not a whole lot of execution problems, I would say, and it was definitely a fun watch. So, you know, I personally want to see more.
We do have a couple more weeks of this left.
Yep, we certainly do. Well, guys, I think that's going to be pretty much it from us here, for now anyways. I want to thank, again, Feasel for the restream and the whole Speed Gaming team for making this possible. Thanks to our admins, who are also in chat, by the way. Hi, guys. And thanks to our trackers, of course, Final Flame and Maximini. And last but not least, of course, thanks to my co-commentator Korek. It was a pleasure as always.
Yeah, thanks, Hervey. It's been a fun seed to commentate with you, and thanks again.
All right, guys. I hope you'll have a great night and stick around. There's more fun rando Keysanity insanity to come.